So the first step to understand all this ritual and how it's so efficient is to understand the position, the main position, how to hold the stick and which orientation you want to give to your wrist and your arm. You are gifted with three motors. Three motors are going to action the stick, and you want to free them and use them at their best. The three motors are the fingers, which are really fast, and actually the fastest of your body. The wrists, which are quite fast as well, and also that can rotate. And by rotating, they change your movement, and by changing your movement, they're changing your sound, okay? So, for example, some drummers would ride this way, some drummers would ride this way, some drummers would ride this way. For example, Bill Stewart would ride really this way. Most of swing drummers, for example, the main one that I think about is Jeff Hamilton, would ride this way. Or some people like Terry Lynn Carrington would ride this way. So this is important to be free in your choice of orientation. And the third motor is your arm. Your arm, of course, could action the stick, but is not really made for that. Your arm is mostly made to move around and to go all around your kit. Your drum kit if you're a drummer, your timpani kit if you're a timpanist, so you can go all over, even behind if you want. So you want a technique, you want a position that lets you use these three motors at their best. How to do that? You have to create a pinch. When I say a pinch, it's a way to hold the stick, okay? So this pinch is going to be between your thumb and your first finger. On your first finger in the middle phalanx, okay? Everybody has three phalanx, 1, 2, 3. You put the stick on the middle phalanx, the second one, and on the big part of your thumb, okay? Where on the stick, usually you could find a point of balance where there is some weight on top and some weight at the bottom. But what I would recommend to practice the best is to actually put the stick with the end of the stick at the border of your hand. That way, again, you're going to be free to choose later when you're in a playing situation. If you want to play this way or if you want to play this way, you have practiced both. You have practiced all positions. But if you practice only this way, of course, you won't have the possibility to go back with more weight later if you want to, musically. So my recommendation is to hold the stick this way. So you hold the stick in your pinch, a solid pinch. And if you have this solid pinch, it means that your three last fingers are free to move. And if they're free to move, then they can action the stick at its best, and they can be actually really fast. And then you also have the power to use your wrist and your arm. Now, one specificity of the whole ritual is that it's made to be played in what's called a French position. The French position means that your thumbs are facing the sky, okay? And the way to hit the drums is by having the stick exactly in the same axis as your arm, with the thumb facing the sky. And that way, you're going to be exactly with a 90 degrees angle, with the thumb facing yourself. You can start this way. You hit the drums and you come back. And by doing this way, it means that you have a round trip. You go and you come back. So it's twice as much traveling as if you just do this, okay? You do actually a huge movement. And a huge movement with this angle of wrist is actually pretty demanding. And when you come back to a different position in a normal playing situation, you will see that it's going to be much easier. So this way to practice much harder, much more demanding for your muscles, but much more efficient to improve your technique. So let's check out again my basic position. I start like that, sticks on the ear, 90 degrees angle with your arm and your wrist. Fingers closed around the stick. You make sure that the stick is exactly in the same axis as your arm. That way you don't lose any energy, okay? When you're gonna be playing later, you want a direct impact in between the energy that comes from your back, boom, to the sound. It's a straight line. You don't lose any kind of, if you don't have a straight line, then you would lose too much energy, you would lose sound, and your impact musically would be lost. You hit, you come back. Same on the left. So I would really recommend to take some time at first to make extra sure that you're in the right position, to make extra sure that the stick is in the same angle as your arm, and to make extra sure that your wrist is not doing any kind of angle like that. For example, a lot of my students have this weakness. At first they start like that, or they would do a little bit like that, and that's wrong. Okay? So make extra sure that you're doing this. What I recommend usually to my students is to take a full week only doing this movement. Very slow and perfect. And then if you have that perfect, you're gonna be on some kind of rails. You will be starting very with a healthy movement, and then later you'll build up your technique on a perfect movement, and then you're gonna have a great sound. So now you understood this, it's important to separate the work of the three motors and work on them individually. Then you can identify a weakness and you can practice one of them more. Or if one of them is very strong, you can let it on the side and practice the other one and have really your technique at its best. The way to do that, we're going to name 3 different positions in which we're going to practice all the exercises that we are about to see in this whole ritual. Each exercise has to be played with the 3 different positions. First position is fingers closed around the stick. And this way, you're only gonna practice your wrist. This is very demanding for your wrist. Second position, you're going to open your fingers. When I say the fingers, it means these 3 fingers, the last 3, okay? You open them and you don't use them, so it's an inactive fingers position. This way, you only practice your pinch. You have a hold that's very strong. By the way, you're going to develop this muscle. On my hand, it's pretty strong, you see, because it's been years that I've been practicing drums, so I have this kind of ball of muscle here that lets me hold my stick perfectly and never drop it when I play. So you don't want to drop your stick. You're in a concert situation, you play a solo, the worst thing that happens to you is that your stick is flying and then you lose the music. So by practicing this way, you're gonna improve your pinch, your hold of the stick is gonna be very strong. So second position is fingers inactive. Third position, you're going to use your fingers. And again, following the same philosophy, we're gonna practice in a very hard way, much harder than any kind of playing situation that is going to let you free to choose later which way is best for you and which way is best for you, any kind of musical situation. So we're going to practice with the first phalanx, the basis one, the one on the basis, okay? This is the biggest movement that your fingers can ever do. And by practicing this way, when you're going to come back to a different position, let's say maybe an easy one like that, and your fingers are only gonna play a little movement, then it's gonna be much easier. It's like you're weighting 5 kilos and you've been practicing weighting 100 kilos. It's much easier, okay? So first position, fingers closed, pure wrist. Second position, open your fingers and don't use them. You practice your pinch. Third position, you use your fingers. Okay? If that fits for your playing, your body, that's great. Sometimes I like to add a fourth position, but this is personal because this is my arms and this is my way to see music. But I wouldn't recommend necessarily to practice with a fourth position. You're free to decide. My fourth position is to practice with the what's called usually American technique, where you actually turn around your wrist and the stick has almost the same movement, but not totally. So I practice this because I like to have a full palette of different sounds at my disposal when I'm going to play. But it's not for everybody. So what I do is really, for each exercise, position 1, position 2, position 3, and sometimes, if I feel like it that day, position 4. And only on a practice pad you can actually hear the big difference of sound. Why? Because you changed your movement. Again, movement is the sound.